Okay, this is another nice one. Again, if you haven't done this in the book, if you haven't attempted it, please do. It really does boost your confidence, even if you can just solve bits and pieces of it. And these are all typical biological questions that you would solve if you plan on becoming a bioinformaticist. Even if you plan on becoming a data scientist, I read the other day that they are increasingly going after bioinformaticians to hire them as data scientists, not only because you are used to working with big data, but the problems that you experience are so complex that you typically go through your entire toolbox most of the time to solve about a simple biological question. So practicing these things and just attempting small little things, even things that seem, tedious and basic, actually does increase your skills, and obviously it gets stored somewhere in your head, and you will find it useful at some stage in your life. So attempt it, please, if you haven't. Here you've got your sequence again. They're saying to you that you've got this enzyme that scans a DNA sequence, and it looks for the pattern, or the motif in this case. Once it finds, yes, this pattern in the DNA sequence, it cuts the DNA sequence between the G and the first A, and it splits that fragment over there. And they want you to write a program that's going to calculate after the split what the size is of the first and the second fragment. Okay? So pause it here if you haven't done it, and please attempt it. Okay, so very important. I always say this. I like to start with a tester, especially when things are a little complicated, and especially if you are working with biology. You're hardly going to get a sequence that is this size. Okay, so I start with a tester, and then I ask myself, so what are my steps, and what tools do I have to solve each step? Okay, so my steps are, I need to be able to find the position between the G and the A because it's going to cut there. I've got the dot find that does exactly that. It takes in an argument. In my case, it will be the GAATTC, and it is able to tell you the exact position. Then I need to know the lengths of the two fragments. Do I have something that helps me to find the length? Yes, I have the dot length function. So this is what I'm talking about when I say the test sequence. Make sure that your test sequence is actually going to be useful, or your test file is going to be useful enough to give you a clear indication of whether your script is working. I know that I need to find GAATTC in the sequence. So I created a shorter sequence of, I don't know, 9 or 10 nucleotides, and I put my GAATTC in that sequence because that's what I'm going to need to find. So then I tested by saying my test sequence dot find, and I'm looking for that pattern, and I can see 0, 1, 2. It's supposed to be there. It's supposed to cut after the TAG, right? The GAATTC is there, so it's going to give you the position where the G starts. Okay, so let's print that. And it's telling me, yes, it is 2. 0, 1, 2, right? And you're going, okay, wait, so this is not helping me now because technically speaking, my first thing's length is 3. But I mean, that's easily solvable because you know that it's starting at position 0. All you can do is you can just add the 1 to it, right? And you would know that your first fragment is length 3. So this is what I did. I just said length of first fragment is equal to the position of the first fragment, which I just scripted, and then I add 1, and then I should get the correct number. So now that's solved. You've got the length of the first sequence. How do you then get the length of the second? It's going to cut there. So how do you get the length of the second sequence? I use my length function, and I say, okay, the length, what is the length of the entire sequence? And I print that. And then I say, technically speaking, then the length of my second fragment should be the length of my test sequence, the entire length of my test sequence, and subtracting this. Okay, and remember, I've put this in there plus 1. So it should be the length of this, which is, what is the length of this? Okay, let's print it and see. It's going to print the whole thing now, but it's fine. What now? Okay. Okay. Can you see how nice and intuitive the sometimes the error messages are? So it says the name test sec is not defined. Okay, so I'm going to go, what did I print this one now? Length test sec is equal to test sec. Okay, so now the problem is I changed this here from test sec to test sequence. So I just need to change that, run this again. And so it's saying that the length of your test sequence is 7. And so obviously, again, it's nice and small, so you can test whether or not it's doing the right thing. The length of the test sequence is 10. So I know if my first sequence is 3, then that means the second sequence will be 10 minus 7. 10 minus 3, which is going to give you 7. So I can see with these small numbers that my test is doing the right thing. And then I just apply that to the real thing. So because now I know I'm going to use the sequence that they gave. I'm going to do sequence.find, and then I must just add this position, the 1 to this number. And then I need to find the length of my entire sequence. And then I need to subtract this from the length of my entire sequence.